Good morning and welcome to Gateway Kids. My name is Miss Terry and I'm the elementary coordinator at Gateway. And today I want to share an object lesson with you that comes from Matthew 5:13, when Jesus is doing his Sermon on the Mount. And he's calling all his disciples to listen to what he has to say. And in 5:13, he particularly addresses how we are supposed to be as Christians. We are to be the salt of the earth. Salt is a seasoning. You and I use it to make our food taste better. But I bet you didn't know there's a lot of other uses for salt. They use salt up north to salt the roads when they get icy because salt will melt ice. They use salt to heal wounds and to make things better because salt is also kind of a antibacterial, if you will. And so I'm sure some of you maybe have even used salt water before to gargle with when your throat is sore. That's because it has a healing element to it. And then also we use salt to preserve food. Back in biblical times, they didn't have refrigerators and freezers like you and I have. So in order to preserve their meat and stuff that they could eat it and it wouldn't turn rotten, they had to preserve it, and they would use salt to do that. They also use salt for payment. Soldiers would get paid in salt because it was a very, very much needed thing in that time, just as it is now. So I want to read from Matthew 5:13 to you what it says. And he's talking to us because we're his disciples too, right? It says, "You are the salt of the earth." You are the salt of the earth. So how do you think we're to be the salt of the earth? Do you think maybe that we are to season the world with God's love? That we're to go out and show Jesus' love to everyone, and in that way the whole earth is salted? Well, I know this. Salt comes in shakers, and it's meant to be sprinkled around and spread around, not all put in one place. If you put it all in one place, it's too much, right? So what we want to do is we want to fulfill the Great Commission. You know, when Jesus said before he went back to heaven, he said, "Go out and make disciples." He goes to the ends of the earth. He wants us to share his love everywhere that we can. And in doing so, then we can salt the earth. We can season the earth with kindness and love. Let me show you what that looks like in this little object lesson. So I have two here. These two Coke cans represent the earth. And so I'm going to close that so it doesn't blow away. This is the salt shaker. And I'm going to show you how that works. I'm going to put just a little bit of salt in my hand. Can you see that? All right. So when we use just a little bit of kindness everywhere we go, it'll make a difference. Because as Christians, we're called to make an influence all over the world for the good of God's kingdom. So I'm going to take just a little bit of salt, and I'm going to drop it in here, and you're going to see what happens. Oh my goodness, and it bubbled up. I'm going to add just a little more. Look at that. It bubbles over. So God's love just bubbles over, and we share it with the rest of the world. But then there's some more to that scripture that I want to read to you. And it says, "But if salt loses its saltiness, how can it be made salty again? It is no longer good for anything except to be thrown out and trampled underfoot." So what do you think he means by that? If we lose our saltiness, can we be used effectively for God's kingdom? So we have to be reading our Bibles and staying in relationship with God and sharing the gospel wherever we go in order for this world to be saltier. So I'm going to challenge you today, and I'm going to show you what happens when salt loses its saltiness. Okay? Same thing. We're going to put salt in this one. And nothing happens. I don't want to be like that, do you? I want to be like this. I want to be like this one, where God's love just bubbles over out of me, and I go around being a salt shaker everywhere I go, sprinkling God's love and seasoning this world with kindness and love. I hope you enjoyed this. I'll see you next week for part 2. Have a great day.